Right, that's here. All right, so we're workshop number 4 here. Looking at the last section is where we left off on the schedule number 11 here, the subdivision and plating regulations. Which is chapter 151, section 139, so 151.139. So we're ahead of leaving off. Here.
No, I thought we were on page 3 already.
Or, well, I'm sure we're on page 3. It's this last step here. I just went by these numbers.
Okay.
I sent out an email today. I got back from Evan, a couple different things. Been working hard. We got the revised, based off the recommendations from council during the workshop, we got the revised zoning codes. Those were sent to you all. Kind of shows, one of them, the Word document shows the red line items, so things were adjusted, and then the PDF, which is the clean version of that, so you'll all have that for reference. And then also Evan sent out a map. Evan, did you want to talk a little bit about the map that you sent out real quick? Yes, the one.
Yes.
And Marie, you should have it in your email.
Yeah, so the map is
Okay.
basically a concept of the step down zone that we had discussed a couple times at the last few workshops. And I just wanted to make sure the council kind of understood visually what that would look like on the zoning map for one, and then two, if there's any discussion of where that zone would be placed or applied on your zoning map, we can definitely go through that tonight. Obviously, if there's any changes or questions on that, we can get into that after we go through the subdivision section. But I just kind of wanted to visually show you guys what we're discussing, what that would look like on your zoning map. And then obviously, once there's any questions, we can go through those tonight. And then once that's settled, we can then finalize and make sure that language meets whatever you guys agree with tonight in your ordinance.
On the map, Evan?
Mhm.
Okay, looking at that step down the buffer thing that you had there.
Yep.
I think you're missing like 1, 2, 3, 4 other properties that there are, and I'm trying to put my, I guess I need some new glasses off of that, which would be actually to the south of where you're at right there on the curve. Because those other 4 properties should also be part of that step down.
Cedar Drive.
Yeah, is that what it is?
Cedar Drive.
Yeah,
Where about you pointing at, Jim?
right here.
Down in here?
That
Cedar
one.
Point. Cedar Drive,
Yeah,
Cedar Drive, okay.
Yeah.
you can blow it up in here.
Yeah, that.
because it goes as like a part of an arrow, but that should go encompassing those other 4.
Yeah, that should buffer Cedar Drive as well. And then
Okay.
the other ones that you've got question marks on, that those those also need to be buffer zones.
Was there any other ones, Councilmember Spring, that you had or no?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I think the gap between the two is the park, right?
Correct.
Which are the other ones that you had, Daniel? Which were the ones that you were looking at?
What's that?
That weren't on there, which ones were they?
I agree with the ones that the one that you were saying, but
Yeah,
the
where
ones that are relevant
Oh,
in question, I'd say yes to those.
Marie was trying to say something.
I see the other part of those squiggly things that there
Yeah.
are, should be in there too. That's
I thought Marie was trying to say something.
Yeah. Go ahead, Marie.
Yeah, Daniel asked about the one from Sunnyview over that to the pink one, that's the drainage field. And then park.
So no houses will be built up in that area.
Right.
Just a question, so for that agriculture that we're putting in that zoning, that's technically township. Should we be at, I mean, I know we talked about we should label that there, I just wondering how do we differentiate that?
Well, right now in your map, it does have the boundary of the city limits, and then what we could do is your zoning map one could show the buffer zone, and then we could also update your future land use map within your comprehensive plans. That was one of the maps we had at the last workshop that we're referring to, and if we include it in there, that might be
Yeah,
helpful
'cause-
to also further delineate for everyone, what's kind of identified for future development that wouldn't necessarily be as dense as other areas of the city.
It's also on the other side too, that there is coming down Minnesota Avenue.
Mhm.
Would we wanna add buffer zone on that side too?
I don't know if you wanna do a buffer zone because, well. I'm just saying for being township is what I was referring to off of that.
Sunnyview Lane, that agriculture is township, cause our house butts right behind it. There's no way to add a buffer zone.
Yeah, so I think the best strategy for some of those areas outside of the city limits would be your future land use map. You would add a layer onto that, basically correlate into your buffer zone and your zoning ordinance. So once it does get annexed, the idea would be that would then apply to that spot moving forward. Again, once it's annexed, so that'd be kind of a future waiting until it happens type of deal.
That clarify things, right?
Yeah, can you remind me what's a 20,000 square foot lot? Is that a 0.4?
That's for the,
43 and some change is
43,
1
right.
acre. So 20,000 square foot would be just over. Or just
under
under
a half acre.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we were thinking or discussing at one of the previous workshops, the buffer would be about 200 feet in depth, which if you make the minimum frontage or width of your lot as 100 feet, that would equal out to your 20,000 square foot lot size that we've been discussing as well. So you basically have one row of lots that would be that one size, and then obviously outside of that buffer, you're gonna have those different lot sizes.
As a suggestion on the map, rather than showing any of the line on the ag or the township, can you do like you did in River Park or Riverwood Hills, the hash mark, the diagonal line, just go
Yep.
along those properties, and then reference the note that you have of being 200 feet from adjacent development or something like that.
Yeah, I think I just wanted to kind of conceptually show this to you guys without spending too much time on different areas, but once we have all those areas finalized here tonight, we can definitely go in and spruce it up for you guys a little bit. So we'd have it all, each of those buffer zones would look the same. It'd have the same, symbology, same coloring. And then you'd have in your legend, that'd be updated to note that new symbol correlates to that new buffer zone.
Well, I think what you did helped explain the step down area. It's just a matter of the best way to show it on the map, and I think we got some good ideas there already, so. Any other questions there? Then over on the right-hand side, the codes at the hash or the slope lines that have some type of definition there, explain what it is. Okay. Any other comments? Okay. Shall we start with our 139?
Yeah, let's just start plugging through this last section here, the subdivision and plating regulations. 139, again, 151.139, where we're at. Hopefully you guys everybody's had enough time to kind of look over this last section here in the last few weeks, and kind of a bigger chunk, but You know, a lot of it's kind of straightforward with the stuff. There's a lot of definitions, especially as you get towards the back end. After that, so.
Feel like I lost your link, Jason. You want to send that to me again? Lost my link somehow. One,
The link to,
Today's
your
documents.
email this afternoon.
oh, yeah, I'll see if we can send it here real quick.
Yeah, if you need, I can get it over to you.
You can also click on the city calendar. They're dropped right on the meeting. You want to click in through there.
Assuming I know.
That's a lot of work.
Orinoco.com. Will be erased. So I guess moving in, do we have any questions kind of in the first few sections here, the 139 through, before we get to definitions in 146?
Through the definitions.
Okay.
Page 6. 148, section 49. 150. $151. $152 is the plats. On page 8, on page 9. I had a question about the, this is kind of, I believe, a carryover from our other discussion about a tree preservation plan. Item B under subdivision 3 on page 9. Is that something we had talked about earlier to leave in?
So we're looking at 151.152, section 3, subsection B, draft tree preservation plan. So we revert.
Related older trees, right? No, new trees.
Yeah, that was my understanding.
Two. Back in 151.120. We talked about tree preservation. Um, Just looking at Evan's document, it's still in there. It says shall standards during construction or grading.
What's the problem with the plan? Having that in this section?
I'm sorry.
What's the problem with having this in this section?
It's just a question. I went back and looked and see what we had before, but the other question is point number C. It said submission requirements. C, if requesting developing flex zoning, the concept plan submittal should include setbacks, proposed home styles, and examples of elevations. The proposed home styles is what caught my eye. that's something that's really needed.
Yeah, I think it is, because you're gonna have to put out the full plat of exactly what you're doing in there. You can't make any changes at all, so they have to come in with what the home styles are when they do that, you know, for them to have that for the flex. It's gotta be everything included. That's a whole purpose behind it, is you know exactly what's going on there with the flex.
Once the plat's accepted, there's no changes at all to it.
No, but the flex part of it, that's gotta be in there with that flex.
Be back in flex then.
Well, at the request, this is number C that you're looking at, that's in there under the 151152C. This was under the B, we were looking at the tree preservation plan, and then look at C.
So that gets back to whether the developer using development flex or is doing the R1.
Exactly.
Again, I think that we're not looking for floor plans, we're looking for, this is gonna be single family homes.
Oh, the style.
On slab homes. Yeah, 2-story, like,
It's
it's,
a category.
yeah, it's not saying that the washer and dryer is gonna go here.
No, it's
in
just.
94 lots,
Right.
right? It's saying it's not gonna be row homes.
Is there a better
and
wording
it's-
that could go in there? Just to clarify?
No, I think that's the right way to put it, as proposed home styles. I think that you've gotta have that so we know exactly what the flex is gonna look like.
I think that's just gonna be a staff training thing on what that verbiage is actually intended for. And I mean, we can put somewhere maybe back in the DF, the intent of that or under a definition or something, but
Sure.
I think that's a staff training thing to say, no, we don't need specific floor plans. We just need to know that these aren't gonna be, you know, you're saying single family homes, but now we're gonna try and put in quads.
Right, okay, that's fine. Thank you. Page 11. Well, that's subdivision plating.
Under which one are?
And that-
We're gonna fill out the same one.
No, I know, it, but I mean,
That's just-
There's still 151, 152.
I'm in that, but you said page.
Yeah, there's another one at page 11 that there is, which goes to,
I'm on page 11 of it, and I just wonder what your concern is on that page.
you're just going through them.
Forward by, we were talking about the proposed home styles, that was on page 9. Under,
Right.
okay. Page 10. Page 11.
You just asking if anybody's got anything on this pages as we go through.
Page 12. Page 13. Page 14.
Boards apart.
Oh, gotta go.
The Dickens one you bring it down.
From up there.
Page 15. Page 16. Page 17.
I have a question real quick. I want to clarify this more towards Evan. You're looking at our document here, still under that 151.152, Evan, on page 16 there. Right before section C, the final plat, if you go up a couple to
Mhm.
number 8, VII, it talks about a CAD file of the proposed preliminary plat. Is that something we currently have builders providing to us? I've never had anyone submit a CAD file to us or CMS that I'm aware of. I could be wrong. They could be given to CMS and you guys.
As I don't know if it's typically requested, but it's not necessarily uncommon, especially if you're having a subdivision with streets getting installed, it would be good to get a CAD file at some point, especially for Joe and engineering staff for,
Easier to follow on
They
the
were
CAD file nowadays than what's going
Yeah.
on.
I don't disagree. I just want to make sure that we as staff are making sure we're, you know, getting the correct stuff here as part of the preliminary plats. We're getting that, you know, CAD file, if that's something that's being requested. And if builders in the area are used to doing that, I'm sure big projects, yes, but, you know,
I think nowadays, it's almost, if you're in engineering, you don't get a draft table out anymore. It's all done computer off a CAD.
oh, no, I 100% agree. I'm just saying the stuff we get is not that. It's,
Yeah, I think that they print it for you, but I think the CAD is.
Is that CAD file a proprietary program or is there a generic term?
No, there's.
For-
CAD would be the generic term, so
Okay.
you might have a specific program that does CAD
I just wanted to
type
make
work, but CAD would be the
asking for
generic name for that.
Indian tissue, yeah. Yeah, thanks.
yeah, that's just one question I had. I just want a quick clarification on.
Good question.
Yeah, I think it'd be good if you guys ask for that, and then if for whatever reason it's simple enough where they don't have a CAD file, we don't have to get one, but it'd be good for our records moving forward.
That's something that we would do in the final plat also, wouldn't it?
Correct, yep.
On page 17, under subdivision D, it's subdivision 1. Final plat procedure 1, subdivision D, talks about staff upon receiving a complete application as determined by staff review. By staff review, we mean Evan and Joe, they're part of the staff review.
Correct.
Doesn't need to be called out, city engineers, planners. Okay. Further down on E, city council consideration, just editorial, that first sentence, the manager should be replaced with administrator.
One second, where you at? Sorry, E?
It's on I.
E at the first
I.
under 1.
Page 18. So Evan, from your perspective under subdivision 2 application requirements, the requirements go on for over 4 pages. Is that really necessary to have everything like that shown? From your
I think
perspective?
you'd rather have more details than less, just in case someone isn't providing the information you want. You can point specifically to the section of the ordinance and make sure that they're submitting what we would want for information.
I think it's also helpful too that we can make staff training materials from something that's really explicit like that.
And it's more clarity on.
Yeah, it answers.
Yeah, we could also simplify it as a, you know, a checklist or a how-to guide moving forward, so. Obviously, the more, you know, experienced or nuanced professionals might go straight to the code, but if it's more of a, you know, a property owner doing a lot split, they can work with staff on getting like a how-to that's more simplified than just having this long list of items.
Well, most of the engineers that are gonna come here are gonna already have looked at this and understand what their requirements are to
Correct, yeah.
move forward.
Is there anything in those pages that is something new that you haven't done before as from an engineering perspective?
Honestly, most of this is pretty standard. Say I'm just reading through it again, but this is pretty similar to, I'd say 99% of communities, especially in Minnesota. You're gonna see maybe some minor variations on, they might have a different scale requirement or distance requirement on how, you know, much information is shown, but by and large, this is typically what a lot of communities are going to be requesting for a plan.
Okay, great, thank you. So.
Yep.
If you keep your finger on page 18 where it talks about application requirements, that's under C. And if you look at page 22, C is repeated, administrative subdivision. And I think that should be a D
Yeah, you are correct.
on page 22. When I was reading through this, it seemed like it was duplicated. I think they meant to have to say it was a D. Oh,
Administrative
and you corrected
subdivision.
it already, okay. There he has it. Never mind,
Why does that not
it's
suffice?
already taken care of.
I do have one
My
question,
copy must just stop.
not to go back, but I do have one question. So on page 10, under section D, under preliminary plat, for the public hearing notice, it talks about a 350 feet of the site. I thought it previously referenced 500 feet. Is it?
I think that's what we talked about before here, last time around.
It's currently 300.
Okay.
And then I think when we talked about this last time, you guys were saying 350.
You know, we increased it from whatever it
It
was.
was 300, or it is 300 right
I
now.
thought we settled at 500.
It references 350 here, I guess is what is there a difference?
I'm sorry, 350. It is 350. It is 350, but you guys did discuss raising that.
And I thought
Is earlier in the document is 500, it just lists 350 here. Does it need to be consistent or is it?
you should be consistent.
Yeah, so that needs to be updated then.
That's on page 10.
It's on page 10 under D.
Catch.
No.
So
Sorry, I
going
didn't mean to
back,
go back, but
It's okay.
no, going back to the city manager versus city administrator. Their city administrators referenced 3 times in the document, city managers referenced 4 times.
Should
The
be,
document.
Should be city.
city administrator, because we don't have city manager in our.
Right, right. So I don't know if we want, but manager can be a generic term. It could be.
No, because if you do city
Administrator
manager,
or-
it's set up as a city manager.
Completely
Okay,
different.
it's completely
Big
different.
statute.
Yeah, oh, yeah,
So I imagine we need to have that
a city administrator,
all across. the
all
board.
across, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, we can update that for you.
but I didn't know if we wanted to put a definition in instead and say,
No, that's, that's in statute, you can't play with that.
okay.
That's
I mean,
cast in
One of the
stone.
difference between a city manager and city administrator, city manager can hire and fire
Okay,
versus, is my understanding.
That's one of them, yeah.
It's the biggest difference.
Usually just the city manager falls under more like a charter city, so there's just a lot different regulations and, yeah, so.
It's a whole
Whole
nother
different set of
book.
guidelines.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
all right, so yeah, so there's inconsistencies in the 2 of those.
Okay, 22 pages. 22, the point. Yeah. Administrative subdivision, which is lot splits, as we know it. On page 22, page 23, the application requirements. From Evan, from your perspective, do you see anything in there that's different, same, something new? In those application and one,
I would say this is pretty standard language.
The only thing that was missing that I had requested in the original draft was something for some time period between lot splits. To get around. Actually doing the development process versus just slowly splitting lots.
I don't think lot splitting should be considered development.
Yeah, but if you have a 40-acre parcel, how many?
40 acres is the lot split.
Yeah, but you could split it twice and then you could split it twice more and then in 3-4 years, you've got lots. So we don't have anything in there prohibiting somebody from splitting lots
I
multiple.
think on the previous page, council member, it does have a requirement on a time period, and that
Okay.
is subsection 2A, I believe. So that page 22, it should be towards the top of the page there.
Yeah, that's a good comment about lot splits and timing, because we experienced that over on the northwest side. And we had one big area that did one lot split, and we ended up doing the second lot split.
Which is
And it could have been a
B,
development from the beginning, but I don't know what we could have done different.
2B on that one,
Yeah, it's
2B, not to be, no, 2B
on page 22.
on 22.
Yeah, so 2A notes the parcel land has not been previously part of an administrative subdivision. So if you were in your situation, had a 40-acre lot, split it into two, and then try to do another administrative lot split under that requirement, you would not be able to do that again.
And this.
You could still go through, I suppose, this normal
And
preliminary
this is
plat, but you
new,
wouldn't
we
be able
didn't have,
to
this was not.
administratively.
Right,
Correct.
this
would've
is
been
new, okay.
Yeah, she might have actually put it in when I asked her to and just worded it in a way that I didn't recognize it.
No, I think that's good and a good point that you're making. Yeah.
I think we have a lot of big lots that be coming up that could fall into that on the periphery of the city.
Well, especially
Yeah,
like over-
4 or
especially
5
like
acre.
over- Like over at Woodsview.
Yeah,
There's a lot of-
4 or 5 acre lots that are over there.
Yeah.
So if you look at administrative subdivision. Let me see it. Oh, administrative subdivision. Number 2, and then subdivision B. If parcels are residential, the subdivision will not result in more than 2 lots,
I think that's,
either through the subdivision.
I think that's what Evan just mentioned.
Yeah, both A and.
Yeah, he's just clarifying because for my question.
Thank you. Okay. Going forward from page 23, 24. Five, development contract and required improvements. Page 25. Six. Seven. Back on 26, the bottom of 26, financial guarantees. And this gets back to what's being proposed with the combination of letter credit and cash escrow. And for the next. To page 31, there's a lot of detail in there about the financial. But a lot of that is written in between our current cost security agreement and development agreement. I believe there's a lot of overlap of what we have already in our system and how we've, not our system, but what we used before. And it just seems like we're adding a lot to something that we have in place already. That's covered with our cost security agreement as well as our development agreement, so.
This will just give our developer agreements more force behind them, because it'll show that we're following current city statutes, city ordinances. So that's why you put these in place. You have the development agreement that still explains all this that they signed to, but this is kind of that. This is the development agreement. This is the stuff from city code that you have to meet and move forward. So that's why it's good to keep that in there as a reinforcement action for that contract.
A little bit
Yeah,
more.
this basically gives you the option if in the future you want to use a different sort of financial guarantee or tool, you can use that and know that it's already in your ordinance, but you can still
That way,
operate as you're doing now currently.
and that way we don't end up with a subdivision that didn't get the second overlay of blacktop in it. You know,
Been there, done that, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Been there, done that, right?
We're
Exactly.
in the middle of doing that, yeah.
So when we talk about escrow. So are we looking still having a cost security agreement? Or is that gonna go away? Are we gonna keep that?
So we went, Mr. Mayor, we went and changed the definition back way at the beginning of the ordinance for escrow. Since that was already a defined term, that should have been one of the changes I made in there. And I added in cash or cost security agreement. So,
I think we put cost security agreement in parentheses beside that.
correct.
We did.
Okay, I just wanna make sure we're. Not lose the sight of what we put in place already and.
Well, when it comes to something like that, is that something that the city, for finances on that, to make sure it's there, shouldn't there be some kind of a performance bond? You're required to have a bond for that in case, if for some reason the developer themselves go belly up, you've got a way to
Well, I
protect it.
think the developer has to put up the performance for their financial aspect of it.
I understand that, but it's not mentioning performance.
It comes into the development agreement and it's usually on what I've seen from the city as far as the bigger projects. Where those have come into play. We haven't had one in the time I've been here. Usually just the development agreement or the cost security agreement are enough to cover the costs. But the bigger housing developments is where you're gonna see those. And I know I've seen them in there for that. And so they're written into the contracts.
Yeah, so these financial options that they have listed here in the page 26 and 27, those would be those financial tools you're looking for, a council member, that would, they put up cash to make sure if they don't finish the installment of a street, for example, or water or sewer pipes for whatever reason, then you, the city, would have some sort of financial fallback to finish installing it if for whatever reason they can't finish the project themselves. So these are basically just the different options that your attorney could require they submit money to us for doing those installations.
And that's actually listed in section G here, the warranty maintenance guarantee.
Correct. Yeah.
They're talking about warranty bond, line of credits, cash escrow up to 25% of the original amount. The costs, so. For the various improvements.
So looking back over this. The cost security agreement is to cover our engineering work, so the city's not. Having to pay for that work, the developer is paying for that, so is that written into our development agreement, or? We have a cost security agreement that covers our engineering work and.
The cost security agreement is kind of the first catch-all where we're doing that initial work. You know, you look at like.
Planning and zoning review.
Hamilton development, right, with that first one where it ultimately didn't come to fruition, but we're able to. Recover some costs because we put in all work to get to the first steps. Then once all that initial plating stuff gets approved, then we moved into the next phase of. Where we're gonna go like with Dragons, that'll be coming as the development agreement. As they start to come in before they start building to move into their final stuff. So it's it's just a stepping stone into the development agreement.
But the cost security agreement is, I don't think we have an agreement to put it in these codes. Or is it necessary to put in the codes?
And then we just said that was mentioned earlier in the definitions.
Yeah, I think we can further change it to just get rid of the reference to escrow and put cost security agreement in there as well. So kind of what Jason was saying, a development agreement's basically a contract between you as the city and the developer, and that language on making sure that any expenses of the city's end are covered is standard practice that Mike obviously is, well versed and included in there. So we can certainly remove the reference to escrow and just have cost security agreement in there, but it would be standard practice even if it wasn't in there for your attorney to reference some sort of way for them to pay to cover your guys' expenses.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Page 2930 is 154. Design standards, page 30. 29 into 30. 31. 32, page 32.
What talks here about, back on the page 31. Right at the top of the page, he says lots of muddy water. Don't we have to do something when it comes to that stuff? Don't they have to do an environmental assessment worksheet on that? Or how does that work? For certain or for subdivisions of a certain size. They'll do some kind of environmental impact statement or something like that?
Well, I think this goes back to, in that, at the end there, it references the different zoning codes that it's subject to. The provisions of those ones in the floodplain.
So I know they had to do some of that stuff when they did River Park and when they did parts of Riverwood Hills because it was so adjacent to the water.
Yeah, so you'll look in here, it says the plating of those lots within that floodplain
Land stuff.
Yeah,
are subject to
it's in your shoreland. I'm sure.
the previous code.
Yeah, so a lot of that's already gonna be covered elsewhere in your ordinance.
Land overlay district here.
Well, a lot of that's in the state statute though, too, isn't it?
There you go.
Page 31. 32. '33 is 151.155 streets, general requirements. Page 34. Under D, access. We took out the section XX. That was redlined out, so. Evan has on his sheet. His draft. Six. Under 151.156. Design standards. Under B, street surfacing and improvements. Editorial for guidelines. It's missing a U. Red line. And right above that was section I under one, right above the header 151.156. It has developers shall create a homeowners association to be responsible for street maintenance, repair, replacement. Like in River Park, when we were for our development, we took a vote among the homeowners, and there's only, well, there was like a 2/3 said they didn't want an HOA.
Yeah, that's under alleys and private streets though, Rylan. That's under K. That's only referencing alleys and private streets.
Yes. If you have private streets.
If you have private
If
streets.
you have private streets.
And that would be in the new development that we have coming in. Cause there's gonna be private streets that are gonna be associated with that.
Thank you.
They're gonna have an HOA, he talked about that already, so that's already.
Part of the fees. 37, 36.
Can I ask a question about 157 sidewalk and trails?
Kevin?
Page 1.
No, that's on 39, they're not that far yet.
We got a couple more pages to go.
Keep
We'll be right there.
We're working our way.
On the top of page 37.
Too closer.
Talks about railroad right of way. We can probably take that paragraph out.
Up on page 37.
In number two,
Number 3, it says.
or number three, yeah,
It's
number
the
two.
principal arterials, it's on page 37. Point number 3, when streets parallel to the railroad right of way intersect the street. I think that paragraph can come out.
Number three on that one, okay.
Did you not want a
E3.
railroad go through town? Is that what you're saying?
I don't think we're gonna get a railroad in the
And the
future.
light rail comes from St. Paul. We'll take a look at this.
I was gonna go right up the middle of 52 though, so
If they're gonna do it, that's where it should go.
Don't talk, that was proposed.
that's how they do it in Seattle. It's actually kind of nice.
On the top of page 7, on number 1, you got an extra space down there under minimum right of way. Between the hyphen and the way,
Where's that one at?
number 1, top of page 37. There's extra space between the hyphen and way for right of way. Bottom another.
On the width requirement in that chart.
Yeah, right there, an extra space between the hyphen. I don't know if it's written or not, but if you're editing. It's listed correctly above in that same section at the top of it. It's just on the last sentence that there's an extra space.
Oh, I see, there was a way.
You know,
Yeah, we can.
Does it-
update that.
It's like where we, I see
it's minor, but if you're cleaning it up, it might be.
Under number one.
Oh, and they put that right here.
It's like right of way, right. I'm like, where, which one are we looking at? Everyone I'm
It's in
finding.
number one, yeah.
I got it.
No, right here.
Last bit of the sentence of number 1.
Yep.
Don't see that on here, so maybe you cleaned it up already.
Page
I'm not seeing what you're talking about here.
37. That's on 36, I'm sorry. 37.
It's on page 37.
38.
Question, Evan, I haven't been able to find it, never deep dive into it. I'm talking about roadways here in town and designs and standards. I know there's a few areas and one that comes to mind. That's a gravel road.
Isn't even completely.
We don't know about that one.
So,
I think I know the one you're talking about.
that's somewhere in the codes to address that, cause. You know, is that obviously something like that may be grandfathered in, but allowed, but standards that the city's held to maintaining, that kind of stuff? Thoughts?
We should probably address that in here because a lot of the section's gonna be new streets. It wouldn't necessarily be retroactive to old ones, but
That may be more of a question for.
I do think it might be good to add something into here in case someone were to bring up if you need to do something and you as the council maybe have other ideas on a unique situation like that. So I think we could add something in addressing that for you.
Okay, I mean, not that that would be coming down the road, but I'm sure.
No, but it'd be easier to do it now instead of later. So
You know, if something's either
Be there for
grandfathered
us
in,
when we need it.
right, and yeah, just. I guess too, I don't know if there's anything in here about minimum maintenance roads or keeping anything like that, I don't know.
I didn't see anything on minimum maintenance. I know most of the language in here refers to either a urban lane or roadway or a
So when I think like,
roadway, but it also talks about pavement no matter what. So that might be something we might want to
yeah, when I
give
think
you
of.
another option of a
I do feel like that's important, Evan.
yes. No, that's a good thing that you brought that up because I
It
hadn't.
says pavement, everything has to be paved and if we don't give ourselves options to, I don't know, redesignate it as an alley or a private drive or something, and it's named a road, are we gonna be forced to pave it?
Yeah, and that's obviously why we're going through this tonight, so it's a
If we have
good
the
thing to
option,
bring
I
up
know
now
in
for you.
my experience in other towns, if you know, have a gravel type road in city limits, it's often designated as a minimum maintenance type road for one, you know, just being able to get to it later on down as far as maintain it during certain times of the year as needed, but also for a city kind of to help cover legal liabilities as well, because there's a lesser standard that those roads are often held to. So I don't know. I just think that that's something that should be in there maybe. The city, you council members should consider as that comes, because that may or may not arise in the coming year or two, so. More to come on that.
I know there was question brought up when they first blacktopped the roads. Because they went halfway up Cemetery Hill and stopped, and that was in blacktop that was intended for other places that didn't get done.
Yeah. So anyways, it's something we might, I don't know, Evan, we can look at trying to get, I don't know where it would
Yeah,
fit.
I think that's a good idea to add that in there, so it's good you brought that up, man.
In council, that might be something to get added for city's sake, so we'll make sure that gets noted.
So on page 39, item J, subdivision 1. This is right before the 157 sidewalks and trails. There's all streets within a subdivision shall be dedicated as public streets on the plat except for private streets as approved by section 75-93, which I think is an old code.
Yeah, I don't know what that's.
Yes, that is definitely a typo there. Or someone copied it and didn't change it before they finished it here.
Me note.
Now, when, well, we don't want to talk about that anymore. Okay.
Well, Marie had a question on page 39, so. While we're here.
Sidewalks and trails.
Sorry.
Yeah, I had a question on A4. So it says sidewalk and trails shall conform to current ADA guidelines issued by the Minnesota Department of Transportation. Does that mean that all trails, even existing trails? Because I know many of our trails are not ADA up to kind of legal standards.
I think similar to the streets, this would apply to any new sidewalks and trails, but maybe something similar to what we discussed with the streets. Maybe there's something where you,
They'll be grandfathered in after
yeah,
that.
you may want to specify that this applies just to new ones.
So does this need to be specified by anything that's put in before a certain, or the date of this adoption?
I mean, yeah, you could put in a tagline at the end that talks about anything built prior to April 2026 is considered grandfathered in under, you know, the old clause. And where you'll see it is, okay, when we're gonna replace it, now it has to meet that new standard.
If you go to replace it.
Yeah.
Well, that would be at the front of everything that's in here anyway, you know, so it should be everything that's in here.
Yeah, and that's, I guess that would refer back to Evan and even Mike on that, because I know a lot of times that's just kind of considered grandfathered in, but it's tough to tell too of, okay, well, when was this built? When, you know, you get that, you know, if it says this ordinance was done in 2026, well, clearly if the house was built in, or this was built in, you know, 1957, we know that that existed before this code. But where it gets tricky is 50 years down the road. Now, you know, having that. So Evan, I don't know what your thoughts are on that, how to work that in, specifically this, but overall the entire code section.
Yeah, so typically kind of what you were mentioning before, there's a catch-all statement that notes this is, you know, applicable to new development moving forward. I think, you know, maybe for this specific line in general, you could state that it's new sidewalks and trails shall conform. Something else to keep in mind, I guess, if you, once you do adopt this, you could add a line either in the footer of the document or the header noting when the ordinance was adopted, so then you'd have that date. in there, so if it's adopted, April 1st, 2026, you have that in there for reference, so like you were saying, Jason. If something was built, in the 50s and the date of the ordinance says obviously a different date, you would know that it's non-conforming there. And then if in the future, we get it hosted online, your ordinance, they can also add those, date references in there as well for you.
Any other questions on sidewalks? Okay, 40, page 40.
Go back to page 139. There's drainage and water quality. What does the BMP mean in number 2? Well, best management practice, never mind, okay. There you go.
Thirty-nine. 40, drainage, water quality. Sewer and water facilities, so on page 41. Under A, general requirements. Point number 3. Oops, what happened here? $151, yeah, okay. Point number 3, any existing homes proposed to remain on well and septic at the time of subdivision shall connect when the current well or septic fails. Within a subdivision, I thought we had an ordinance where you have to connect if the lateral line goes down the street in front of you, you need to connect. This makes it sound like you can stay on your septic system until it fails.
Yeah, I think you have that covered in your utility code already, so we could remove some of those requirements from there.
Says shall connect.
In the utility code?
No.
Shall connect to sewer and water.
Shall connect, it doesn't say should, or it shall. So you
Yeah,
have
but
to
he's
connect.
getting to the point of
That's her-
when the current one fails, and that's not the standard, it's, you just have to connect as we're going through, I think is what he's getting at.
So when the current well or septic system fails, I think we should remove that.
I would look at removing that whole section, because that just talks about.
It's already in the
Houses-
utility code, why does it need,
Yeah.
doesn't need to be
Yeah,
there?
it's already covered elsewhere.
Meaning
so
on
we
that,
can
we're
get
not
rid of
giving
it.
them the option to remain on it,
Yeah,
so that whole, I would say that whole number 3 would be removed.
it makes sense.
That's even better, yeah. So we'll remove section subdivision 2.
That's a 161, right?
No,
159.
159.
Great.
Sewer and
Gotcha.
water facilities. Okay. 42. Model homes. Sales offices. 163 is park dedication. And it goes on for
Where's your park dedications?
151, 163.
151.163.
Now, is this where the 10% comes in on that?
Well, there's a,
Yes, it is. That needs to be changed.
and I would,
That's way too much.
today, it goes on for 6 pages, I think.
Right, but it's under residential dedications in the graph here on page 43, it shows the 10% subdivision there. I think
So
we
what
need-
we've done in the past. All of our, first of all, residential, today our parkland dedication only dedicated is for residential plots, not for commercial plots. So within our current development agreements, and the last one we did was River Bend, there was a paragraph in the development that identified the calculation for the parkland dedication from a financial standpoint. Based on the number of acres, the market value of the whole development divided by the number of acres.
Yeah.
The difference between taking out lots, then it takes 10% of that.
I think that number should be reduced considerably. I guess I don't agree with, thinking every developer comes into town and shake them upside down by their bootstraps, see what falls out.
Yeah, because that's all their profit that they have that's involved with it for a developer.
I think 10% is awfully high.
That's what's,
Because we definitely don't need more park land at this point.
no, we're not.
That's why we.
Well, that's
changed
part of
it
the
to
10%.
dedication. Why we changed it to,
And I'm still saying,
have to
if,
be land,
To what?
that it does not have to be land.
I
no, but
well,
I'm just saying,
It was,
that's 10% of their.
excuse me, it wasn't land to start
What's
with.
that?
It wasn't just land to
Right.
start with. But I think that 10% needs to be reduced considerably.
So
But nothing
I like keeping this on here because this allows us to give credits back when they're making improvements to their areas that benefit people outside of the immediate development. Like the walking trail that's gonna go around the outside, that will have a price tag put back on it and it will count against that 10% if whatever that comes out to be, like, that's still to be determined, but like that's on the table with that 10%, and that encourages developers to do things exactly like what's being done.
Well, it says subdivision, wasn't it considered a subdivision? You get split a lot, then you want 10% of that. Splitting lots technically subdivision, so that means you get 10% of that lot too.
It's not
No,
part of our
there's-
administration requirements.
Dedication requirements, yeah, exactly. That's what you're talking about.
You're looking at 10% of the land should be dedicated when you have less than 9 units per gross acre. Designated to, in the residential area, to park dedication, whatever that may be. So if that's green space, that's trees, that's, am I understand that right? Walking trails.
Well, trees isn't part of the
Less
10%,
developable.
that's in a whole different, that's in a whole different.
Sorry, trees is a bad word, but the park space, the walking trails, the green spaces.
So where are you getting that, like, a lot split is,
This is
Well,
less than 9.
because right
Less than
underneath
that.
number 1 in residential dedications on page 43. Number 1 that says residential dedications, and in the chart there, it says 10% of subdivision area.
Yeah, but you gotta have dwelling units per gross acre, so that, less than,
You're still talking subdivision area. That's what I'm getting at. You split a lot, that's a subdivision.
I think what Parks and Trails would like is really to focus on D, so that cash contribution in terms of land dedication versus parks. Because again, Paul, to your point, we don't need any more parks. We have parks that are underutilized that need work. And so I think we would be looking for cash contributions in lieu of kind of that park dedication area.
I still think 10% is high. That's kind of more my point than anything.
Yeah, the straight profit that's coming out of a developer.
we required lot splits to contribute 10% in the past?
I don't know that to be the case, but
I don't
it's
think that we have,
just that it's written that way.
but I think it's written.
But a lot
pretty much
split
the
would
same
be an
way.
administrative
Right, it's not,
versus a new,
yeah,
development,
this is
planning,
referring
like
to.
some planning or planning of
Yeah.
development.
Do you guys want to exempt administrative subdivisions from park dedication requirements?
I think it
Yeah, I
definitely
think-
should be, yes.
Okay.
That's a reasonable.
I do too.
Yeah, so I think we could maybe add a line into
I think,
151, 163 subsection A. We could specify in there that
I think it'd be a
an
bookkeeping.
administrative subdivision would not have to dedicate land or pay a fee.
8% here, but we still got 2% left.
We need to change verbiage or put something in to make that clear that this is for developments, not lot splits or administrative.
Or not, or it should say not including administrative
Right,
Right.
actions.
yep. Good point.
But kind of to Marie's point, I think, you know, having this in there along with you see the other options really gives the city a variety of tools they can use during negotiation with these project groups to go, hey, you know, we'll forego the 10% of the subdivision area and lose some cash. Or, you know, maybe we need some new playground equipment. So instead of dedicating land, you can purchase new playground equipment for this park or, you know, stuff like that. It provides a lot of options, which I think are beneficial to both the city and the developers. So,
I just guess I see this as a good place to debate the 10%.
10%.
What's your thoughts?
Oh, 5. Take it to 5. You're still getting,
What's wrong with 10?
What's wrong with 10?
Well, if
It's a lot of money.
10% of what your profits are is 10% of your profits, okay? I mean, you get developers coming in and going, I can go to another city and not have to pay 10% of my profit up front. Because that's what you're really asking is for them to give 10% of their profit.
It's not 10% of their profit, it's 10% of the value of the land. There's a
Market
difference.
Right, but it still comes down to
I
profit.
get that, it still comes out, but it's not 10% of their total profits. There's a major difference there.
Oh, absolutely.
Huge
You're talking-
difference.
You're talking 10% of the whole $80,000 to.
but I'll look at it from the citizen side, you know, they talk about how much they want sidewalks and things
Yeah.
like that. That was a huge win with Dragon's development is able to say, hey, let's have them put in sidewalk, because they didn't need to put in a sidewalk. That wasn't part of the code.
It was very well received.
Well, and we have to remember, we don't have other sources of revenue here, like, we don't have streets and roads tax, we don't, you know, so that the source of revenue for us to be able to do and maintain some of these other projects that we're so many years behind on has got to come from
Okay,
somewhere.
then maybe what we should do is we should make sure it's real clear when somebody buys a lot, they spend 80 grand for a lot, 8,000 that's going for parks. They need to know that up front. I'm just,
Or do you put down on
That's a big number.
10% or equivalent, which allows them to be able to do playground equipment or something else. That might be-
That's kind of what you get into with the cash contribution down below under that. I mean, you can do a combination of cash and land dedication, and the city has the ability to play with this stuff. Just because it's 10, 11, whatever, you know, the size, how many units per gross acre, you know, the city has the ability to play around with these. This is kind of the starting point for the city and developers to start with and work with and to go from there.
Well, let me ask you on this one, Jason. What are existing local communities doing? Are they doing a 10%?
I don't know off the top of my head. I do know that there is some zoning. I think Byron's got something in there with theirs. I don't know what the number is. I'd have to reach out to Al.
Could you find out? I mean, I think that would just be for us to be competitive as a city, to know what our other communities around are doing.
Yeah, I can certainly reach out to them and kind of see what they are. But I do know a lot of them are kind of in the same thing where they don't need new parks. They're looking for the money. You know, the say, we'll take in the money so we can offset some of our parks and equipment and things like that, you know, to do that. So
I mean, I like this. This goes straight to the community. This goes straight
It looks
to.
like Casson is doing what our proposed ordinances are suggesting. Casson is doing that, the same options with cash or land.
10%?
Byron, it says negotiable.
Okay, that's,
Byron, Casson. Those are the two nearest by I can find that are offering a similar
What
negotiable.
about Pine Island?
That one didn't pop up for me.
Just a quick Google.
I would
search.
say 10% is fairly common up in the
Yeah.
metro area.
And to me, you put negotiable in there, you're opening yourself up for risk.
Yeah.
At least when they come in and they know what that 10% is, it's laid out versus.
Pine Island's Parkland Dedication Ordinance in City Code Chapter 12 mandates developers dedicate land or contribute cash in lieu for parks and open spaces to serve new development, typically requiring land dedication or fees to be handled during the planning process. That's what we're saying. City council determines the negotiation and any dedication of land, cash, or mixed base of development needs.
And it doesn't give us.
It doesn't give us
Doesn't give us-
exactly.
Well, it's, again, it says negotiation. It says
And that's what I'm
negotiation.
saying, it may be, well.
So it says 10, but it says 10, but you could say 5.
That's right.
That's the thing is you put negotiable in there, it opens up yourself for risk because you could walk away with nothing, I guess is.
Yeah, you
At
were,
least if you put that 10, there's a line in the sand of this is kind of the pay to play type of deal.
Section E right there, where it talks about combination of cash and land, that is the city's negotiation.
Yes.
That is their option to say, okay, we'll make this 5% and take a little cash.
Many of the cities is 10% or higher.
Mhm.
I'm seeing 10 to 15.
So,
So the Minnesota statute explains the options of either dedicated land or dollar figures that's negotiable, but you know, if you're a developer and you've got, like in the case of River Bend, the states are 17 lots there. And he had the option of either, based on what this paragraph was, $8,000, whatever it was, $19,000. So he has the option of, okay, I want to make a park, but I got to give up 3 lots. So the developer looks at the 3 lots that it can't build on versus the dollars he's losing of not building those lots versus giving 20,000 to the city. He's probably going to give 20,000 to the city versus losing those 3 lots to build on.
And then
So
again,
that's a trade-off.
your profit, the profit margin is different than market value. There's a difference there. So I think that's something you gotta be clear on. If this was saying profit, I would agree with you, Paul, that 10% of a profit is, that's
well,
night and day.
okay,
So
let's take that same thing and go back to go to page 44. Under commercial and industrial, the land dedication's at 7.5%.
Number 2,
Yep.
number 2A.
2A, it's at 7.5%.
So from a
And
Dubuque
that's for
standpoint,
commercial.
from our local standpoint, we've always done just residential. We've never applied dedication to commercial and industrial that I'm aware of.
I think we had talked about it with Linda King's development. I don't know about Dollar General. That was done before my time. Two Sisters was kind of done before my time, so we haven't had any land
But she had some
dedication
R2 in there too.
with the newer stuff going on across by Casey's, so that's not something that's ever been done with commercial. I would think with commercial, you're looking at that going, you know, it's a smaller area. They're not having the residential traffic. You don't need as much parks and recreation type dedication space for those areas. So,
Well, and their zoning is different.
yeah.
They're in a different area.
Well,
So-
the thing is, even with Dollar General, that wasn't actually a development, that's just a building permit put up that went in.
Yeah. To fit within the
That
guidelines.
wasn't a development.
It's still development,
Well,
fit within the guidelines.
it fell within the building permit. It's not like they had to put in a plat.
Evan, from your standpoint, have you seen parkland dedication involved with commercial and industrial dedication requirements?
It's more common up in the metro for sure. Once you start getting away from the cities, it's less common, I would say. So if you guys don't want to require it,
I
that's
think we should take it out.
obviously up to you guys.
I look at Linda King's development and there was a lot of green space put into that because of the neighbors wanting that connection through there to traffic and movement and patterns. You take that out, they're less likely, those lots of lands are less likely to be,
It'll be a concrete jungle.
yeah.
Can I ask why we wouldn't want that money or land dedication? I mean, again, we've been talking about, we're trying not to impact our taxpayers. This could be money that we could use for other purposes to try to offset some of those things.
I guess I just think it's high.
7.5%.
Well, I mean, the residential part, the 10% I think is high.
I'm okay with it.
I would keep the commercial industrial as well. I fine with all of it in there. I think it's just goes straight back to the taxpayers, and that's what we're looking for is,
We didn't have the 7.5% wasn't in place when they did C.H. Robinson, California, that stuff. That's the first time I've seen this.
So if you look at Linda King's property and she says, okay, I'll donate land for a park. If that's what she decides to do and not develop it or whatever the case, but the point is, and then all of a sudden that becomes city property for us to support a
Maintain.
number of acres with playground equipment, paths, or whatever it can be negotiated, so that's. It's an area we're not familiar with, at the same time versus residential, because that's.
It doesn't have to
that's people
become-
use that live here.
yeah, it doesn't have to
Commercial
be a
development
park,
is just
though.
people come and go.
It can be the green space that's the buffer between residential. It can be the roads connecting, it can be sidewalks or walking trails through areas.
It could be a courtyard.
It could be, yeah,
Yeah,
Review,
it
Tim.
could be cash.
specifically with the commercial, I think of more like your courtyard areas
Mhm.
between businesses, those type of areas that are gonna be inviting for the people who work there, that are gonna bring those businesses in because they've got those.
It feels more like more of a
Areas.
community center, or you know what I mean, or
Yeah. I
instead of
get what
like
you're
a
trying to say.
strip mall with just a bunch of concrete,
Yeah,
right? Maybe there's a seating area or a fountain or something, you know, I don't know, like, those are all good ideas for a commercial development the size of what Linda was looking at, right? So it's gonna be different when you're looking at Jungies or, you know, some of just the single building structures that are going on over there on single lots, a larger commercial
and
project.
we don't have to ever take over maintenance of those are usually.
Right, a larger commercial
there.
project, it certainly makes sense to have something like that in there. Again, negotiable, but to have it. Or if we were ever get something big like a business park.
That's what, I mean, virtually, that's what that was looking to be.
Right.
And we put language in there saying that the land dedication must be maintained by the commercial properties. As
Well,
opposed to
we
the
could, I
city
mean, we could
property.
do that in a development agreement as part of that, where we're laying out the stipulations for that stuff. Cause, you know, I think of most commercial developments, I know, like when they've got green spaces like that, they stay within those. Whoever is owning the properties, you know, when they're developing, putting those together, they don't hardly ever turn over to the city, and even when, if and when a company does fold in on itself, it's not maintained by the city. It's still maintained by the property owner. So, you know, you may lose the business, but the property owner's still gonna.
Still has a
So
building
why-
to take care of.
So why would a developer offer to give X acres of land to the city for them to take care of?
They wouldn't, is what I'm saying.
Mhm.
Like a commercial development, we wouldn't have.
You take the 7.5% or the 10%.
Cash.
Well, even still, you could say
I
we're,
understood what you said, I thought you were.
in the, so in a commercial, I'm thinking commercial, strictly commercial development, we could say you need to have 7.5% of your land is for parks. That's not on us to take care of, though. It's park greenland dedication for the city. We're not saying that you need to build a park, you need to have that park's green space as part of that. And that's still on them to maintain all that. That's not on us to maintain. You know, where you're gonna see it in commercial or in residential as well, we want you to build a new park for this residential area to service these people. That's where the city kind of gets into this, we're gonna take over this park, this area, as a park and maintain it.
So you're saying, so instead of that, maybe it should say green space.
Well, of course, you're looking at other one, Jason, off of that, if you have an HOA. The HOA would be responsible for maintaining where it wouldn't go to the city, it'd go to the HOA.
or a percent of dollars to the city.
Yeah, or in any of those in lieu of the green space. You know, park dedication is a loose term. You know, I don't know, park, green space, Evan, does it really matter how we reference it?
It needs to say in cash in lieu of. That should be added.
I think you have good language in there right now, whether you wanna
Yeah.
have it for parks, playgrounds, trails, or open space. I think that gives you a broad variety of options moving forward.
So
So if
one
you just
comment-
have it as parks, for example, it would be hard to legally accept a trail as a substitute for a park, but with what you have now, you can have a couple different options moving forward. And I think we could maybe add some language in to note that if you guys want to have a HOA, for example, manage an open space or playground that's allowed within the ordinance.
Sorry, but I didn't mean to talk over you there. So one quick comment there too on that commercial and industrial dedication requirements that Paul pointed to. Under section A. Notice it says land dedication if required, so there isn't out there if the decision was made not to require that for a business owner. So again, there's some loose language in there that, yeah, land dedication if required shall be 7.5%, but who's making the determination whether you require it or not? There's some.
The,
Well, I think you guys as the commission would review and see if there's a need for a park in a certain area or not, and then
See,
you
and
might recommend whether there'd be a park
well, you
land
need a-
dedication or an actual fee in lieu of dedication, and then the council would get to decide whether they want to have a land dedication or money, or as you guys were discussing earlier, maybe a combination of both land and cash.
I think maybe
If required.
on
If
that
required
one,
is what
we
makes
need,
me.
we need to remove the term if required. And then change it to 7.5% of the subdivision of the development or cash in lieu of, if that's what you're gonna do.
That's loose right now, the way it's worded. Just
Was
calling that
basically
out.
if required.
Yeah, just calling that out.
My thought on that is I look at, okay, two different commercial developments in town. So you have Linda King side of stuff, right, where you've got these huge acreages where they're plating this out to build in, and have that versus, you know, where they can put in more green space or whatever the case may be, right? And then you look at like Casey's, we're almost like,
Greeners.
yeah, or Greeners where it's, but I'm thinking off the top of my head, like Casey's where it's like a dead end cul-de-sac. You've got almost like you would think like a residential, you're just gonna have these little plots of land. It's not the same. But that's again, would come to a council decision. They'd have to look at that and look at the totality of the circumstances for the development and go, yeah, it would be reasonable to have the 7.5% or not require the 7.5% just based off of what type of area it is.
And what else is surrounding it?
Yeah.
Or if you wanna have the green space, that there would be, from there up to the street or some of those things, that would be a part of that too.
That's where I come in with it and look at that. You have two completely different types of building areas. But that's that comes down to council then too.
Agreed, and I get that because it's apples and oranges to your point. I mean, you talk about greeners over here where there's not land for green space. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, they could do something, but at the same time, I'm Linda King, why am I required to do the 7.5% to give up profits versus they don't have to just because of where they're located at? To me, it's all or nothing, and to me, there's some risk of we didn't make.
Building's not fair.
Well, you didn't make them do it, but I'm having to do it, so I don't know, it just seems,
Well, that's a valid point too.
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Cause agreed, like in the greener situation, they don't have space to do it, but they're still required 7.5% payment
Yeah,
that comes along with it. So I don't know, it's just that if required, obviously opens up risk there to me, but
I mean, Greeners could do something with the park right outside of City Hall.
Well,
So,
Greeners had enough issues that they were to find ways to get runoff, that there was to have the ponds, that there
And
were.
they did put in, they did submit plans for a decent landscaping plan too. So, I mean, they are gonna be adding what greenery they can fit in.
Yeah, no, I
They
mean,
did submit a
they've
landscape,
been over backwards to try to do that.
almost everything they can do.
So do we wanna remove the verbiage if required and just have it at 7.5% the commercial? Is that agreeable for everybody?
Yeah, if required, has to come out of there. You can't have that and shall right after it.
Yep.
Okay. So we have a consensus on leaving it and removing the if required.
You could combine A and B, honestly. There. Move if required.
Suitability and required.
They have to put in the percentage at 7.5%.
I mean, this allows us to require payment and fees lieu of land dedication
See.
is what B is.
He also says if the city requires.
If the city requires payment of fee in lieu of land dedication, so.
That's why
I guess that
keep
could
them
be,
separate.
that could be cleaned up to say
No, I think it.
land dedication or cash shall be 7.5%.
I think it's best just left it separated like
That's
that's
fine.
it's sort of.
As long as it's consistent.
So one question on that though too, and I'm curious now after reading that a little bit closer, Daniel, the way you just worded that. Land dedication, if required, shall be 7.5%. If the city requires payment in lieu of that. I guess end of the day though, is if it's somebody's property, like bring up the Linda King thing, is it the city's requirement that we want your cash rather than your land, or is it up to the business owner or the owner of the property to make that determination itself?
Yeah,
Because
that's how I was reading it, is the city.
is making that determination. I don't know if that's, is that,
You as the city would make that determination.
During the development agreement, and so there's kind of a little bit of back and forth where
Right.
you work with them and go, hey, you know. Sometimes they're perfectly fine, yeah, we'll give you the 7.5 or the 10%. Other times it's, hey, we would like you, instead of this, we wanna offer, say, you know, you put forward this amount of money and we'll waive this percentage of land. Because that's what we're looking for.
Back to the Linda King thing, she was also offering up some trail accesses, you know, for.
That was part of the future land use map, so it was kind of a requirement, so.
She was offering up as a trade-off, yeah.
Yeah, but it's things like that where it kind of goes in the negotiation during that development agreement, so.
So you think you need to remove the word if required out of A?
Mhm.
We need to do something, and do we change the language in B? It says if the city opts in to take the payment instead of requires payment.
No, I think if we're requiring payment of fees instead of the land dedication listed above, I think that's fine.
Seems like
I
both
think
of them go together.
somewhere I think
Reading them
need,
together, everything how it is kind of makes sense.
somewhere I think it needs.
One or the other is going to happen, right? It's.
Somewhere I think in that B though, we need to put in the word option, is it the city option? At the city's option of something. It needs to be clear that it's the city's option, not the developer or the.
It says if the city requires, okay, so it is the city's option if the city requires, so it gives us back to the city.
But then when you get to C, we're talking about a combination of land and dedication. It seems like the way it's worded is fair to both to the city and also to the developer by saying
Evan?
required.
If we want to reword it, we can reword it to make it clear.
Evan?
now.
Can we look at kind of how it's done in the residential one with section D there? Cash contribution in lieu of land, can we kind of word it similar?
Yeah, I think we could.
So
Reword this.
word it similar to how it is in the residential one.
Yeah, I think it'd be easy to do that for you.
Yep.
Let's see, finishing out page 45. 46, page. Standards for location. Under C, subdivision C, under 3, miscellaneous requirements, and then there's C, standards for location. Talks about the planning commissions shall develop and recommend the city council for adoption standards and guidelines for determining what's geographic locations for such development should reasonably be required to be conveyed and dedicated. To me, that should be the Parks and Trails making that recommendation.
I would agree, and or a partnership with planning.
Wherever, and planning commission is mentioned numerous times. And to me, I think that should say Park and Trails. Making the recommendations.
Which one are you under?
Right.
Top of page 46.
Six.
It's called standards for location, and then underneath that it talks about. The planning commission does this, and it's mentioned several times, even. On the page, around there. But I think the Parks and Trails is where it needs to be to.
I think it should be a combination of the two of them working together, as Maria said.
Yeah, partnership is a good word.
Yep. These will have.
Planning commission really just deals with. Improvement of developments from developers and as opposed to the city parks.
Well, the planning commission also does the public hearings on all of the properties too, regardless of their parks or developments.
Okay.
All of your public hearings are for development goes through.
Yeah,
I just wonder if we do that partnership, because if the offset, right, we want to have another park, it would be nice to make sure that we're thinking about it with that planning commission.
Yeah.
On where it needs to go and how it aligns to zoning. But if we just want cash or green space, right, that would really probably go to Parks and Trails.
Today, parkland dedication, if there's any funding, it comes to the city within 90 days of the execution of the development agreement. And then the city council can decide if it goes to Parks and Trails or to planning commission, or I'm not sure where it goes when it comes to the city, but it usually it's a dollar figure just comes into. And I'm not sure where it went in the past.
It has been used for streets and roads, I think, as well,
yeah, and I think that's an absolutely fair usage of that.
right? That's
That-
tax, that's the taxpayer, right? We save the taxpayers money by using that.
And that's where that partnership, I think, really can come into play there is.
So how about this, Evan? This might work. So where it says standards for location, after that, we can put something in effect of the planning commission and Parks and Trails in collaboration and partnership shall do the following. And then it goes through each one of this list, and we can just take out where it says the planning commission in each one of these. And just know that under section C, those two will work together to complete.
Do we
1,
have
2,
to
3,
name,
4, 5.
do you want to specifically name them? Cause what if there are other committees like streets and roads or?
But this is just for park dedication
I see.
section we're in.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, I think including the Parks Committee would be.
Yeah,
good.
but that way we can get it right there in the first sentence, and we're not
Yeah.
every paragraph having to say
Yeah,
the two committees.
Have it outlined.
Yeah, I agree with that.
We can put something along the effects of the parks, the planning commission and Parks and Trails in collaboration together shall do the following, and then go into and go down the list there.
yes.
Yep.
So the triple I, where it talks about the planning commission and Parks and Trails, as we're adding. Shall further recommend changes and amendments from time to time to such standards and guidelines. Well, that's not what's looking for. Oh, and number 4, IV, recommendations, the planning commission and parks recommend to the city council the total area and location. It still comes to the council for approval.
Yeah, but it would be both those.
Right.
So
I
you
guess the
would,
only question for subsection IV is that you would have to have a preliminary plat, for example, would have to go through review of both the planning commission, which is already required, so that's normal, but you would also have to have the Parks Committee meet and make a recommendation as well,
Would be good to
if
invite-
you're to do that.
well, they would have a conjoined meeting more than likely if something like that were to occur and bring them together,
Okay.
so.
I say that's, some communities do that, so I just want to make sure you guys are aware of that. If we do make that change, we would
I think
be
having,
doing something of having either a joint meeting or separate meetings.
Yeah,
Cause Joe will be part of the planning commissions, and so by default, streets and roads will be represented there too if something's coming up, so.
And I think that it's not to say that Parks and Trails don't take those sorts of things into consideration too, you know, they all come with their own sort of like perspective.
Yep.
Right, and then they're kind of just,
I think Jason had the
Good
right
memory.
language to start that division, that
Mhm.
section off. and
Mhm.
Let's clarify that to the end.
Okay.
If we create a planning commission, Parks and Trails, there has to be a consensus for the recommendation. So there's one view coming to council. It's not
right.
Yeah,
one or the other overruling the other one.
right.
Mhm.
In the future.
Section again.
So going to VII, private open spaces, where open spaces for park, playground, trail. Be maintained by future residents of the subdivision. Does that only include residential, or is there? Did we get verbiage in there to include? The commercial property in that as well,
Miscellaneous.
in VII.
This is private open space, not public.
Right, it says private open spaces. But if like what Jason was saying with having green space outside of a business park, making sure that there's verbiage in here that they will be the one maintaining it, not the city.
this is just in standards for location,
Okay,
so that's, this specifically is just relating to the location of
okay,
the standard for locating it. I'm sure Evan and I can find, or Evan can find somewhere to make sure we put in there, you know, for the future maintenance of anything put in. But yeah,
Well, my point is, if it's private space, it's a private park, it's a private playground, they're gonna take care of it.
oh, 100%.
That's not open to the public.
Hmm.
It's private.
Well, it can be
Well, it can't be because it's private.
if they choose to open it though.
Well,
right, like the IBM parks are private parks,
they maintain it.
but they are open to the public as well.
That's just more recently too. It
Yeah.
didn't used to be.
Right, they used to be private,
Used to
but
be all
now
private.
they are open to the public.
I looked at growing up, we had Weyerhaeuser. They had a huge area. It was all private owned, but it was all public parks and trails through there they maintained and did. So, I mean, that's what comes to mind when I read that is,
Well, again, in the case too of like, say, a courtyard or something, it's not like a full park, but it would be like a community gathering space. It's not technically a public space that's maintained by the city, right? The management or the,
But how can you require them to put in a private park? It's private property. That's my point. I'm all about land.
let's not require them. This is if they want to put it in, we're gonna kind of help say, hey, let's put it in this area or give you guidance for that.
I guess a private park wouldn't count towards dedication anyway.
thing in the paragraph that probably shouldn't even be there. That's me.
Down in H under administrative procedures. Planning Commission Parks and Trails shall establish such administrative procedures that may deem necessary to require to implement the provisions of this subsection C. So
But you were gonna put that in as a header that there was for this whole thing. The Parks and Trails would be a part of all this.
yes.
Okay, so that would take care of that.
They're kind of confused. So I'm
Anything
look-
else on parks?
I just wanna make sure, I don't know, maybe I got a weird copy. So we have section C here, standards for location. Then we go through all the I, whatever, and then we flip the page. And we have section C again, but it just, there's nothing, there's no like header to what that section's about.
That says subdivision planning,
It says described in this subsection.
Vertical.
Provided, it's just the C and.
Oh, it's a,
It
it's.
carries
it's a
over.
continu-
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, it's so. and-
His is
and,
from-
My
his is
page
printed
is
on
being
the-
weird.
place.
Yeah,
Okay, no, we're good.
he's not reading it like this, he's turning the page, that's where.
I'm like, what am I missing here? Okay, we're
That's the
good.
super inconvenient place for that.
Official maps is the last section, 164, on page 49.
Sorry, Jason, going back to the one you just pointed out, that C, should that be capitalized? Is it, if it's referencing back to the other section, that's
No,
capitalized?
cause it's a lowercase c,
Subsection.
it's a subsection.
yeah, it's a subsection of.
Yeah, described in this subsection, so C, standards and location.
Okay.
Okay, which goes back to the private, yeah, that,
Yeah.
so like you have an apartment building that has a courtyard.
Be lowercase,
Oh, yeah, then the C under H needs to change to lowercase.
cause that references this
This one,
C
yeah.
versus that C. Different Cs, but
Very close together.
yeah.
Okay, I think we can get through maps in 15 minutes.
New
Oh,
meeting.
we got
My gosh.
16th.
You came preloaded with a date. Oh, Daniel, shame on you.
the 16th.
Anything else in official maps? Last two pages.
Oh, we'll need to adopt the new map, we'll have to get the updated land use map on the things to do list and.
So on the very last paragraph. G, appeals. About the Board of Appeals and Adjustments. And we haven't done a Board of Appeals and Adjustments
City code
city code, but we haven't.
currently states that it is city council. So you can deny it, and then they can appeal it back to you and you can review it again.
Round and round they go.
I don't remember, Evan, if that's in the current planning and zoning code or if that's in its own, I think that's in its own standalone code. It's not in the planning. and zoning.
It is in this new code. It's actually towards the very beginning.
No, I'm talking about in our current code where it talks about the Board of Appeals. Is that in the,
They just call it Board of Adjustment.
I don't know if it's actually in your current one. It might be.
It is
Somewhere else.
in the current one someplace where, cause it is, we're the ones.
remember if it's in our current zoning section of the code or if it's in a I could
Just
just.
a
Board of
coordinates.
Adjustments was one person.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
It was.
How do you call that a board?
It was the guy that ran the marina up there.
Oh,
Can't think of-
Hiram,
Yeah, Hiram,
Yeah.
he was the Board of Adjustment.
that. Interesting.
But this Board of Appeals is different than what we do for property taxes because the training that the Board of Appeals is supposed to go through or be trained and certified, that's why and right now we don't have a city Board of Appeals because it automatically everything goes to the county for property taxes.
I think that's just Board of Adjustment, whereas this would be.
This Board of Appeals and it.
I think this is talking about taxes, right?
I know.
No, it's the council, this is the board.
The title general is kind of misleading for what.
Yeah, because later it says if the Board of Appeals and Adjustments authorizes issuance of a permit, the city council will issue it.
Then you're
within
referring
6
to
months.
yourself.
So it's like,
So am I wrong in asking, I mean, Board of Appeal, if you're gonna change something or you want a variance or you would go through planning and zoning. So wouldn't planning and zoning technically be the adjustment board?
No, because
No.
planning and zoning doesn't make any decisions. It makes recommendations.
I see.
It comes back to city council.
Well, it made, there's language in there in the old code that allowed planning and zoning for Mark Keene to put into his campground. That was done without city council.
Well, the way it's
I'm not
my,
gonna argue it.
yes,
I was there.
I'm just saying everything that we've always learned is that planning and zoning only makes recommendations.
They changed some language, they brought together.
And it goes back to city council.
Yeah, they changed some language, they brought together two things and made it
So I guess the question is, if we're not gonna have an appeals and adjustments board, does that language just need to say city council?
You would have a Board of Appeals is how this works. You will have
So we have to
either the
appoint.
council, which is what you're doing now,
Or say
or
we have one that
if
exists.
you wanted some other entity, you could have another group of people make up the Board of Appeals.
Okay, so it is in the current city zoning code that references the Board of Adjustments.
That just refers to a building permit, is that basically go all the way around the block to a preliminary plat and the development itself?
This talks about requests for a variance or an appeal from an administrative order determination, holds a public hearing.
So we need to set up a board of appeals and adjustments, apparently.
That on your to-do list.
Yes, let me just add that.
Rob, name from a hat.
Oh, just squeeze that right in.
Every commission.
Can I pick them? Do I get to pick them if I do the work? Can I pick them?
You can pick them out of the hat, yeah.
There you go.
Always the same name as put in a hat.
City council, city council, city council.
So is this thing as good as it's gonna get then?
Okay, so wait a second here. So this talks about, and this is, I don't know how this is listed if this is in the new code or not. Because the powers and duties says the members of the planning commission shall constitute the board of adjustment, shall act upon questions. I have to look into this a little more. But it still says they recommend it back up to city council any decision, so.
That's why I said
As long
city
as
council.
council's
so-
in that sentence about board of appeals and then.
All right, we'll have to look into that and figure that out. I have one thing to add quick. I did have a few minutes to catch up with planning and zoning chair Kathy today. She was really excited that this was the fourth workshop. She's sorry the meetings on the dates that they were scheduled, she wasn't able to attend, but she has been reading the summaries and the minutes. And she's excited about all the work that's been done. She's really excited for it to get finished, obviously, and make it to council. But she just wanted to say thank you for all the extra work that was done, and she's looking forward to the results.
So the next steps I guess, Evan, from your perspective, you've done a lot of work already, obviously, with your red line version of it. And what we've discussed here tonight, so. This is the packet that needs to be done by the 15th, 16th,
Yep, 16, I think it is.
16th, that Thursday.
It's not mine. Oh, your fault, your fault.
We'll bring it to council on the 21st for approval.
Right, the agenda deadline, I think it's the 16th.
16th, is that Thursday?
Does this have to go to planning and zoning for a hearing again?
No, it's already gone through them. It's up to council now to make their decisions.
We'll need to post for public hearing for it.
Yes. Thank you.
There's no post for a public hearing for it.
Is it, you don't think there's a post for a public hearing for?
We already did it.
That's why. You're right.
Right.
I'm like, okay, that was not on my radar.
We'll verify though, just to make sure, because if we're doing changes to it, I want to make sure that we don't have to.
That's
So we'll verify
kind of
that.
why I brought it up.
Yeah.
I was wondering that, 'cause we
Well, this,
conservative number.
And that, there's been huge changes, but I don't know what the legality of that is, if there's.
will the updated map be sent out beforehand too? There was some updates to that,
Yeah, everything we get, as soon as we get it.
Because the map also, as soon as Evan's done with that, will need to be submitted so that it can be adopted.
Now that we've got that.
Yeah.
So P and Z's canceled
Undetermined at that.
Yeah.
P and Z is canceled for Thursday. There were no public hearings and
and T seemed to be.
Yeah. Kathy was gonna send out an email.
It's on the website earlier.
Two things, or go ahead.
I'd say I have one other thing I'd like to just address with this, and Evan's gonna hate me for it.
Get that?
I going through all this, and really you can see it as you get to the index at the front here where it breaks everything down. I'm really worried about the lack of reserve spaces for any changes 10, 20, 30 years down the road. I'd like to renumber some of these to give us more room to have reserve spaces for changes for any laws that happen. So with that, it would just be simple number changes in here to give us more space. Some of them have two, some of them just have one. But I think, you know, as this is a great document, having more reserve space is gonna be beneficial, because if we get something in the first, you know, in R1 where we decide, oh, we need to add 4 more laws, well, we only got spot for 2. So then we have to adjust the whole document anyways.
Page go, yeah. 0, 0, 1. Whatever number you have, you can add another, you can add another,
About a fourth
Another-
fourth
another
decimal
point.
place.
decimal spot.
I think that would make it more of a subsection of the other one. That's not typically how they're done. So that's why I'm saying if we can add more reserves, you know,
As long as we're doing it.
yeah, like, I mean, this would be the time to do it. Evan,
Yeah, I noticed when I was going through, to add in that step down zone, we're gonna have to renumber everything anyway, so
Oh,
I think it's a
nice.
good point to address the numbers.
Good on
now,
you,
instead of
Ben. Good
Going back
timing.
and do it later.
right? So we'll talk about that, Evan. We'll kind of touch base. I kind of have an idea in my head, but you can kind of help me guide that. Just to make sure
Yeah.
we put it on in there.
Yeah, there's a certain numbering pattern you guys prefer. I'm all ears for it.
But I know in the document, we'll have to make sure we go through Evan, because there are somewhere references certain portions of
Yes, yes,
health, so we'll have to make sure those are properly changed as well.
yes, yeah.
Yeah. So, but again, setting the city up for the future to be able to
do it, yeah.
do what they need to. So that was my one thing there.
One last thing.
So Evan, if you go back to section
Maybe
1, the R1 section, which is 151.042. I guess the R1 section, there's no page numbers yet. Maybe they'll come later. Is one thing.
Yeah, I was thinking we need to renumber the pages. I
Well,
noticed there were some issues with that in the document.
It'll go along with what you need to do anyway.
well, part of that is we've budgeted to go on the Muni code, so we're not gonna have pages. It's all gonna be online where you're gonna be referencing the code itself.
Specific code.
Yeah, not by pages. So we're gonna be going away from a lot of the pages. So,
One less thing to keep updated too.
yeah,
So the,
You don't have any blank pages in there to fill in them,
right?
to fill in those missing statutes or codes.
so the
In
one
the
question,
chat, I posted a couple of other spelling errors that I found. So I can send them in an email if that's easier.
Evan, did you see the chat?
I did get those, yeah. Thank you for sending those over, Marie.
Oh, boy.
No wonder you were so quiet. You were typing the whole time. Thank you, Marie.
Welcome.
so the minimum lot size, the 14,000 square feet. I know we talked about the 10, the 12, and the 14. And 14 is shown in the chart. But if there's any discussion about that, I guess that's where we come up at council for finalization. But I do think it's still, in my mind, I think it's still too big.
Well, let's be realistic. The downtown lots here are 60 foot by 140 along Minnesota Avenue. They're 60 foot wide lots. That's not 14,000 feet.
Right, I was thinking, with adding those buffer zones, we could drop that down to 12 or 10,000 square foot for the minimum lot size for the new, which would technically be
That's,
two then.
it would be with the flex that you can do that. Okay, and so you've got an ability to do that, that's
Yeah.
built into it. You know, so it's keeping the other that makes sense to keep the other ones, which would be the straight R1.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean,
That'll be R2 though. That will be R2, because R1 will be the new zone that includes the buffer zones.
but
R2,
you understand what I'm
Yeah.
saying with the rest of it. So anything that goes with the flex, you can go down to 10 if you want to.
yeah.
Okay, so that gives that flexibility that's inside the flex.
So everybody's just gonna apply for the flex to get the 10.
Well, it's one of those things that you've got that ability, otherwise you can keep the R1 at the 14, you know? Cause again, you've got the flex, which is what you're looking at, right? Okay, you wanna be able to have that. So you're still got
The
that.
minimum flex, I think there's all kinds of ways to do whatever square foot you want.
Mhm.
Mhm.
But in the R1, I think, with the square footages and the setbacks, I just, the steering committee said 10,000 and I'm repeating a lot of this, 10,000 very respective for all of our cities around us, including Rochester. I think 12,000 I'd like to see 10,000. I think 12,000 is respectable, but I think 14,000 is asking a lot of our developers to put a lot of extra cost into that.
Well,
14,000 square foot. These are minimums, not required.
Again, developers, you can go to flex and you can do the 10. So developers have that ability to do that. We're not taking anything away from that. And I think it's gonna be interesting to go to a public hearing and see what the public has to say about it. Because it's gotta go to a public hearing anyway.
But why should we have the developers know that? And maybe developers have that awareness, they can ask for a variance, but they don't know if they're gonna get it.
With the flex here, it's guaranteed.
What's that?
If you go in with the flex, when they came in with that, it's guaranteed. So there's not looking for a variance that goes along with it. That's a part of the flex.
Maybe they don't wanna do a development flex for 4 homes.
Well, you were talking about the situation that you don't like to have, certain, we call it footprints of lots, okay? I won't say cookie cutter, but cookie cutter to go along with it, because you said you want to have homes to be able to do custom home, that are part of that. With the custom homes, you know, keeping it for 14,000 gives enough room to be able to play with a custom home. So a lot of the cities, when I was talking to other council people that there are, when they went to a smaller lot, they just put bigger houses on smaller lots. Where it didn't give the feel of what we want to have here for what Orinoco is. To have the larger houses on the larger lots, but not 20,000, but to drop it down to the 14.
And I have another question altogether. It refers to the buffer zones. Who's gonna own the property in the buffer zone?
Developer.
The developer.
Well, why would I buy property in the first place?
It's a 20,000
Just a
square
second,
foot lot.
just a second. Why would I buy property in the first place within that buffer zone?
It's
still a bigger lot.
buildable lot, it just falls under the minimum of 20,000 square foot lots.
In the buffer zone.
Setback, yeah.
Oh, what's, okay, now where's their buffer zone?
That's the next lot down.
That's the next size down.
Yep.
How does that work? Those that are already there get a buffer zone, but the next group don't.
I mean, they would be, I mean, going from 80,000 square foot lots down to 20,000 square foot lots and then 20,000 square foot
So the
lots down
buffer,
to
so
14.
the buffer zone requires what size lot?
20,000 square foot
For a normal
which was our current,
The current code.
which is the current code. So, I mean, they're still getting that buffer zone is still getting a step down, but it's the step down that we're deciding that the minimum should be. It's actually probably a more favorable step down than what the current lots are getting.
Wilson's got,
So I just, this is actually from May of last year, it was amongst our administrator group, we were talking about stuff. This came from St. Charles, asked the city administrator of St. Charles. Their single family residential square foot minimum is 9,000. Pine Island is 11,400. Lewiston is 8,000. St. Charles is 7,500. Zambrota's 11,000.
11,000 is just over a quarter acre.
No, 11,000, they've got two different ones depending on the lot width.
43,560.
You've got 11,000 or 75 or 7,500 for R1. So they've kind of got two depending on the size. They've got two different, I guess, residential districts. So they can vary between 7,500 and 11,000 for their residential. So take that information what you will, but that's some of our surrounding cities, what they're doing. I know Byron's lower too. I don't have it in here, but I know they're sitting lower. So that's just where we're at with the regional ones.
I'd be perfectly fine with lowering it to the 11,400. I mean, that's 0.26 acres right there, a little over a quarter acre. It's a good lot size still. Put a big house on it still, so.
I mean,
That's just my 2 cents, but I'm not married to any number between 10 and 14,000. The DF is gonna be where people will go if they
Yeah, that's
wanna
what I'm
go
saying.
lower than that, but.
And that's where you're gonna have it. The thing that I'm looking at is how many lot splits would be done when you go down to 10,000 throughout the rest of the town, and all of a sudden you're gonna have all these other houses that there are on lot splits because you're at a 20,000 right now.
Doesn't that speak to what they want then, if that's what they're doing? I mean, I'm just asking this, I don't have a
Yeah,
big lot here, so I don't know. I hear things, but if there's gonna be a lot of them, doesn't that mean that the citizens want that?
I don't, you know, it's looking at why people moved out here in the first place, you know, and it's to have the larger lots.
And that's what came with the public hearing that night. So when we were in P and Z, that's where we landed at that 14,000. And then also the step down also came up in the public hearing, and that's where a lot of that
So that's where
feedback
it
was taken from.
Yeah, I would just,
No,
Just I guess to me, if you had that 14, Ryland, I guess if you still have that 14, then there's a development flex you can apply for. There's still the option to get that lower, I guess, but it provides some, I would say, security for the people that are already living here, paying taxes, that moved out here for that reason, to Jim's point. But I'm not on council either, so I know you guys gotta debate this and decide, but that's my 2 cents based on the conversations we've had.
And we've heard it both ways, right? We've had people lobbying for as small as 9,000 square feet. So, I mean, it's been both ways. But a 1/4 acre lot for me is still a pretty darn good size lot, but I think that's a manageable mowing size, push mower size lot with a good size house on it, right? I mean, but I'm happy to leave that in the DF as well, so.
Cause the DF has got it, and that's why we went with the DF, you know, for the developments was that particular ability to do that. You know,
And 1/4 acre is just under 11,000.
yeah.
Yeah, the only. I guess this is one thing that I'm thinking about is if we have it at 11.4, which is 0.26. Or 11,000, I think it's 10,800 to be
43,565.
but I'm talking a 1/4 acre, so 1080 or 10,800. We have it the minimum at that. We might have developers come in and put 10,800 square foot homes or lots on there. But now we say, now it has to be 14,000. Or you can do a DF, and if you do a DF, you may be able to get it down to 8,000 square foot lots. Like, what developer is not going to put
Go for
more
that.
lots on? So it might be safer to lower it just a little bit, so we don't end up with DFs everywhere in town trying to get those lower.
Well, you
Low
know,
still could,
lots,
though.
'cause
I mean,
you still could.
Yeah.
But you, like, you can still get, I mean, I don't know how many additional lots you would get out of a 40 acre lot by lowering it 3,000 square foot each one.
Oh, we're gonna find out real
Three-
quick.
three-
Might only
three-
be-
three times 4 is 12. You get an extra 12,000.
Well,
For a
12
corner.
lots out of it.
You get an extra 12,000 feet.
Okay,
That's what I'm looking at. You take
Yeah,
that
so you're
4
only
acres,
really-
12,000.
you're really only adding, what, 1 to 3 houses to a
Per acre.
development?
You're adding one house per acre.
Per acre.
So if somebody's doing a 40 acre development, just take out the streets and roads, cause you know, they're gonna cut it in there. They're probably gonna end up with 32 acres of houses.
30 some houses.
32 times.
That's a lot of cha-ching.
30, that's
But if
32.
they've gotta
extra
go
lots.
through the process to get it to 32 extra houses, why wouldn't they go through the process to get it to 64 extra houses? It's the same process, right? So that would be my concern, is that we end up with actually, this goes reverse on us and we actually end up with smaller lots, more DFs.
Well, remember, the DF that there is has gotta come to council to be approved. Okay, so it's for us to say, no, you can't do that.
Like,
So there,
It's up to us, but also next year's council, the year after that's council.
well,
the year
well,
after
it's
that's council,
it's up to council when I said that, when I was
Yeah.
looking at, okay, so. You know, it's it's a roll of dice. I mean, everything is gonna change. I mean, look at it this way. Any of us could win the lottery and we'd be gone anyway tomorrow, right? You know, so.
So
No, I don't like
Daniel,
it.
to your point, a 40 acre lot, you're looking at 34 more units going from 14,000 to 11,000. They're gonna get that many more lots.
So move to Rochester.
Okay.
I'm just, sorry, I'm just putting it out there, because I know you referenced it back to Rochester, and that was part of the conversation last time, was a lot of people moved out here from Rochester because of the small lot size of the way it was, and that was kind of where we landed on that 14, so.
Yeah.
You gotta,
I mean,
not to be disrespectful.
I just keep
put it
looking
out
at the
there.
new development behind the elementary school in Pine Island. And those lot sizes are 7,000 to 9,000 square foot
Mhm.
lot sizes. Those are still nice houses. Those are still nice lots. So
Mhm.
like, that's the picture that I've got in my head for the 1/4 acre lot.
We have those
Really
in
look
Riverbend.
Yeah,
Right,
I
like
mean, it
any
looks,
image.
it still looks.
They just added a new preliminary plat to that neighborhood too.
in River Bend, there's
It's these lots.
at least 4 or 5 houses that are, granted they have a drop off behind them. The livable space is either 85 or 100-foot lots, and they're 120 feet deep. And they're all very nice homes.
And I'm not,
So-
I'm not saying that they aren't, okay?
No, but I'm just saying you can build nice homes on 12,000 square foot lots.
You know, and again, maybe that's a compromise, instead of going from 14, go down to 12, you know, and stick with the 12,000, okay? You know,
I mean, I think we put a lot of emphasis into the steering committee. And when you went into your August public hearings, that was where the conversation started from. The standing committee was 10,000 square feet.
but everybody that they wanted the larger, okay? That's what the public hearing came up with.
Well, we had a
Well, the
we
public-
did have a mix, but I would say the majority of people that showed up were asking for larger lots for sure.
And so
But
that's
there were
our,
absolutely people that were asking for smaller lots.
And the takeaway from the August P and Z meeting was 12,000. That was kind of the takeaway from the public hearing.
which
And
is,
then in the September P and Z meeting, you went to 14,000
yeah,
from your conversation. So I just think that my concern is 14,000 is a somewhat of a deterrent from developers to even looking at Oracle. Because today, if you tell, and I've talked to a couple of developers, and they asked me where I'm at, where the city's at. And I said, well, we're looking at 12 or 14. They just kind of go, geez, you know,
but
that's the
that's,
first impression.
but that's, if you go with the flex, it's not. It's a
The
bit.
guy looking at our codes is gonna, you may not recognize that.
Well, these are the new things that are coming, so it's gonna be like, yeah, you've got an ability to do that with the flex, if you go in and pull the flex. You can do it, you know, a whole lot of a difference, and
Well, the thing, I look at Flex flips the whole thing on its heels. Flips the whole thing over
This
back.
is a ditch drain, but yeah.
So, okay, so let me just ask this for Evan and my clarification. I'm hearing a lot back and forth between 12, 14. Obviously 10 was that at one point, now 14. Would 12 be amendable if we added, listed as 12 in R1 to everybody? Marie, I hope you're still on. You can hear me. I don't know. You've been quiet.
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, I mean, we obviously want to try to make this for the April one, having it done right and everything done without having to make changes, so if 12 is in there, is that amendable to everyone? Is it something that is reasonable, or, again, it's a lot of back and forth right now, which is great, but looking at council members, so y'all are making a decision.
you know, I think it's a compromise that might be workable.
Yeah, I think, and I was wrong, the development behind elementary school, those are a little over 11,000 square foot lots.
So,
Like
well,
12,000 square foot lot, and it's still a really good lot with a really nice house on it too. So like I said, I could go 10, I could stay at 14, and 12 would be fine by me.
I'm just
don't
looking
wanna
as a
go-
compromise that there is, that would be reasonable, and again, remember, the flex is still there.
The flex is still there.
I'm okay with 12.
Marie,
I'm still on 14, but I could do 12. I don't think I could go any smaller.
And I'm not on council, but I guess, are we compromising as a council, or are we compromising on behalf of developers? Pay for septic.
I think that there's some voices in town that are not as vocal. That would like smaller lots. I've had personal conversations with people who want smaller lots.
Well, you know, and some of the conversations too, you know, off that stuff, and we heard some of it last council meeting that there was,
Yeah.
okay, and so my comment on that is somebody that's here, that's living in this community, you know, if they have a house right now, are they gonna turn around, sell their house and try to go into a new house that's gonna be twice as expensive as what their current house is by what the costs are for building? You know, and turn around and pay the extra taxes that there are on doing a new one, and then you could take out a loan for 7%.
Yeah, but that's not
And-
for
and-
me to decide.
No, but I'm just saying, but that's the reality that
Person's
people.
situation is.
People look at that, but you have to look at the full picture. They see that and they think it's a simple solution. It's really not. So everything is going in the new development for townhomes. Those are $500,000 homes.
Yeah.
Okay, are you gonna sell a $250,000 home? Okay, that's in a downtown area. To go into a $500,000 home to pay the difference on taxes plus HOA on top of it? Yeah, I don't know, but I'm just, it's a question that I'm really asking, you know, so you have to look at everything that's associated with it. It's pretty easy to say smaller lot, but going into a new home by what construction costs are now is really expensive.
No, I hear you. There's a lot more to it than that, cause property taxes are based off of lot sizes and lot valuation and all of that. So I am just, with the buffer zone that we put in, I am content with going down smaller. I am fine with leaving it where it is and
My taxes are up 25% this year with 0 improvements. Explain to me on paper where that comes
because
from.
Olmsted County didn't increase your value last year and they doubled it this year.
Or they
So
didn't
that's-
do it for 5 years.
And then they hit you hard
That's-
this side.
that's
That's where
exactly
people aren't understanding is that
Talk about a fraud.
we don't make your, we don't value your home, the county does.
Well,
Our cut gets bigger every time they increase the value of your home.
Exactly. That's why,
But yeah, we don't control that.
well, yeah, we did. We controlled what Orem Up was charging us last year. We went up 20% here, 17.6%.
But
But anyway, so.
no, it's, and it's looking at the senior aspect of it, there is no good answer, and it's not just the city here, it's everywhere when it comes to that. It sucks, to be quite honest with you. And it's realistic, you know? Anyway,
Sorry, we're good later on here. So, okay, so Evan, we'll put in 12. If you want to change the meeting, because I think there's a consensus there where that's a reasonable one between the 10 and 14. But we'll put in the 12 and then you guys can make your decision from there, I guess.
Okay.
So seems to be pretty across the board there. So I just want to get that cleared up.
Anything else? Thanks for that.
I told Jason we weren't getting done.
I was just hoping we weren't gonna be booking the 16th.
Guess it's my fault after all.
Oh, no.
We will have it.
Thank you,
That's
Marie.
right.
Start telling people we'll have it through with the
Good night,
next
Marie.
council meeting.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Evan.
Thanks, Evan.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a good night,
Well,
guys.
Go ahead and, I don't know, Marie, so. Have a good one, guys.
it just ran away.
Exactly.
Okay.
Stop it. What's that?